Sorry, I was muted there. Fran, like any other coach who's had success at the same place for more than a decade, you've also dealt with your share of adversity with some really good teams. What have you kind of learned from some of those past losing streaks, and how can any of those lessons be applied to the current situation?
You know, in this league, it's going to happen at some point. You try not to make it happen. Obviously, you want to do everything you can. But, playing really good teams with really good players. And, you got to overcome certain things at certain times, whether it be foul trouble or a player injury, being on the road or being at home, which isn't as much of a factor this year. But, we just keep plugging away. If you're going good, it's great. You don't take that for granted. If you lose a game, you try to get better in the next one. And then you try to get better in the next one. If you lose a couple in a row, respect your opponent, just keep working.
Tom?
Hey, Fran, what's different about this Rutgers team, maybe the last 4 games that they've kind of gotten hot here after that streak where they were losing a lot of games?
Yeah, they shuffled the deck with the starting lineup, put Gio back with the ball, and put McConnell in there at the start of the season. They were even sure McConnell was going to play. Actually, he wasn't going to play. He's a really good player. Jacob Young is still playing extremely well. He's just coming off the bench, as is Mathis. So they kind of have 7 starters, almost 8 if you want to count Cliff. So I think they've settled into their roles now. Really big starting lineup. Miles Johnson's playing as well as anybody in the country, as is Gio Baker. Remember at the beginning of the year, he was injured and he started playing, and he kind of wasn't himself. He's himself now, and he's one of the elite players in the country.
Rick?
Yeah, Coach, it was your 6th game as a Division I head coach. You came to Iowa City and you faced an Iowa team with Roy Marble, who was playing his 7th Division I game. Now you got a guy who's about to beat his record. What do you think Roy would say about this?
It was incredible. When I first got here, he's one of the first people I reached out to on a number of different levels. I mean, he's our all-time leading scorer. He lived in town. We were recruiting his son, kind of re-recruiting him because he'd been recruited by the previous staff. And I think in the process, and then coaching his son, we got to be really friendly. And the one thing that always stuck out with me with Roy was, he was a hawk. I mean, he loved this place. He loved his experience here. He loved coming to the games. I mean, it was clearly a lot of fun for him when Dev was playing. That meant so much to him. But he was very much involved in our program, knew all of our players, went to every primetime league game, talked to the guys. The guys listened to him. And he would have appreciated Luka Garza in a number of different ways. They would have gotten to know each other, and he would have loved the kid as a person, and then his character, but then his work ethic and tenacity and consistency. I think he would have really been a champion for Luka, and watching him grow and develop and fighting through adversity like he did his sophomore year. And he would have loved him, and he would have supported him. And I wish he was here. I wish he was here to see it.
Mark?
Yeah, Fran, looking back at that first meeting with Rutgers, obviously that was one of your better wins of the season. I guess, first of all, what impressed you the most looking back at it, on what you guys did down the stretch in that game? And then do you reinforce with your guys that moment, but they can do it, they have done it?
That game is consistent with a lot of the games in this league. There's a number of lead changes. We won the game. Keegan made an unbelievable play at the end. But there were so many plays coming down the stretch by both teams. I mean, Gio made a big hoop. Bohannon made a big hoop. CJ made 2 big buckets. Luka had a monster game. Keegan ended up playing a lot Connor got hurt. So it's one of those things where we kept fighting, they kept fighting, and we were the last one standing. And, you know, the same was true in our losses. You know, we're fighting, guys are making big plays, and so are they. So, you know, we're just going to try to, you know, be in a situation where we're the last one standing.
Mike?
Fran, could you spell this out? Your philosophy for taking players out with 2 fouls in the first half. You've been consistent about it, I believe, since you've been here. Could you detail your thinking on that?
Yeah, I don't want them to be in any way tentative in the second half. And it was unique on Sunday because we had 4 with 2 fouls. We had to put Keegan back in, and he came back in, played well. But then I got him out again because I didn't want him to get his third because I knew we were going to need him. He ends up fouling out on an interesting call. So I just, you know, I look at it like this. There's a couple ways to look at it. And I felt like our other guys had been playing really well and they could, you know, play together, play well together, and finish the half and have those guys in the second half play without being concerned and having to get yanked because of foul trouble. You know, I want to be able to have my key guys coming down the stretch.
Are those your basic thoughts, principles, what have you?
Yeah.
In general?
Yep. I mean, in the past, you guys have seen it. I have put guys back in because I felt like we just absolutely had to. And that's why I put Keegan back in that game. But I wasn't going to put Bohannon and Connor and Luca back in. You need your veteran guys on the road coming down the stretch. I thought Keegan's energy level and in particular his rebounding was necessary. And we need to put another big guy in there, front court guy. And he was really good in the time that when I put him back in.
Don?
Yeah, Fran, you mentioned that Rutgers has kind of gotten going by shuffling the lineup a little bit, and other coaches, Izzo seems to change lineups about every game. Is that something you've considered at all to kind of get your team turned around in the right direction?
Well, I mean, we've had to do it out of necessity. You know, CJ hasn't been playing. So, you know, Keegan starts and, you know, CJ comes back, he'll be back in there.
Rick?
Coach, everyone, you know, Jordan Bohannon and 3-point shooting, they're kind of joined at the hip. But do you think his ability as a passer and assist guy has been underappreciated during his career?
Well, I don't know who would underappreciate it. He's going to be the school's all-time leader in assists. I don't know what more you have to do to get appreciated. I appreciate it, I can tell you that. So anybody that doesn't appreciate it doesn't know anything about basketball.
My point being, everyone looks at him as a 3-point shooter and then maybe don't notice how he's handling the ball and getting it to guys in shooting position.
Well, I can tell you, I think that's a good point, Rick. All I can tell you is I'm happy that he does both because he's really good at both. And I know one guy that appreciates, and that's you.
Sorry about that, Chad. Go ahead.
You've been in this league now 11 years, I guess, and you know the scoring record for Luka is probably coming. I guess just how would you kind of place him, I guess, in Big Ten history and Big Ten the time you've been here? I mean, what he has accomplished in this short period of time these last years? How does that translate for you?
Well, you know, I think you start to see, you know, I guess you look at it from a numbers perspective. I mean, is that, you know, it's the only way you can compare someone from one era to another. when you say, okay, he got to 2,000 points quicker than anybody else in the last 25 years. Okay, think about who's played in this league in the last 25 years. Some pretty incredible players. So that's an amazing statement when you think about it. You know, and then, you know, I see those pundits who want to say that, well, his game doesn't translate to the NBA or this or that. You know, I don't know what does. Because to me, they still have a scoreboard in the NBA, but he also rebounds. He shoots a high percentage. He's a winning player. He's a character guy with leadership skills. Constantly works on his weaknesses. Has been a much better defender and is a much better defender than what he gives him credit for. So I think, you know, in terms of those comparisons, I think his numbers speak for themselves.
Mike?
Fran, after games, after losses especially, I think the typical player and coach just sort of wants to answer questions and be done with it. But Luka talks and talks and talks. It's almost like it's a therapy session for him. Is he like that with you or with the team in general? I mean, he seems to take things so hard and so personally.
You know, I think, Mike, you've gotten to know him pretty well. He's fiercely competitive. So he will not take losses well. Nor should anybody. But what I don't want him or anybody else to do is internalize it to the point where they feel like it's their fault. If I would have made that one more shot, if I would have got that one more rebound, if I would have made that front end of a 1-on-1, we would have won. There's a lot of plays in the game. You know, so the thing for him and anybody else on this team is to just keep grinding. The young guys need to follow his lead in terms of preparation and work ethic and keep believing in each other. And, you know, the first part of your question, no, he doesn't talk like that with me. He just keeps working. You know, if he talks that way with you guys, you know, you'd have to ask him, you know, his reasoning for that. Other than, you know, he just likes to answer the question to the best of his ability.
Okay, last question for Coach John.
I'll ask the CJ question. Is he going to play tomorrow night? And how much have you missed him on the defensive end? I know how much an impact he makes offensively, but where is he at defensively?
He's our best perimeter defender, and he's the best shooter in the Big Ten. So you're going to miss that guy. He's a gamer. He's a late game player. I hope he plays tomorrow. Our plan is for him to play. We'll see how he does today in practice. You know, and I've said to you guys, and you know, it's hard for you. You're not at practice, so you can only ask the question. What I say is legitimately day-to-day is legitimately day-to-day. And it's probably going to be like that for the rest of the season. So, you know, you can keep asking the question, and I'll keep answering it as honestly as I can, because I think he's going to play. I hope he plays. But he's only going to play if he feels right. If he's in pain and discomfort and can't go, then he won't go. We'll play somebody else.
Okay, Coach, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
If she was able to, you know, profit off her name, image, and likeness her senior year when she had that amazing run with her team, and all the accolades that she, you know, gathered that year, and she had so much value to her name, and she wasn't able to, you know, profit off that. And, you know, Kaylin Clark was a participant in that meeting when we met with Senator Bold and Senator Whitford, who's the Senate president of Iowa Senate. So I know we had a really good meeting. A lot of things that, you know, we actually got. There's a trust fund that they wanted to put in the bill. We actually got that erased from it. And I thought that was huge for college athletes, because they should be able to, you know, get money right away from it. And, you know, as well as the effective date, July 1st, as long as it, you know, it goes through the House and Senate and passes, so, which I think has a good chance to.
Mark Emmert. Mark, go ahead. You're muted.
Jordan, sorry about that, man. Hey, I wanted to look back at that first meeting you guys had with Rutgers, and what do you think you can learn from that the way you guys handled the late game there that could help you guys going forward? Like, what was the biggest thing you did well in that game, you think?
Yeah, I mean, we got some stops. I don't remember Gio had the ball up top, and I swatted it away, and they ended up hitting it out of bounds, and that was a huge stop for us on the defensive end to towards the end of the game to really get the ball back in our possession and really ice the game from that standpoint. So I think getting defensive stops late game, and I thought our offensive execution has been pretty well late game for the most part. There's just needs to be some tweaks here or there, but for the most part, I think it's been pretty good. And it's just going to come down on the defensive end and getting a stop late game to really get us out on top.
Go ahead, Rob Howe.
Hey, Jordan, you played, I can't remember what season it was, but you played with plantar fasciitis, and I remember you talking about the pain you were in. How did you manage that, and kind of what was it like going through that and playing with that?
Yeah, I mean, it was hell for myself to do that, to play through that with plantar fasciitis. I think it was about a year and a half I dealt with that. Me and Brad Floyd traveled to Chicago just trying to get, another doctor's opinion on, what I'm able to do. I know we switched orthotics for my feet and, helped for a little bit, then came back. But it was just a lot of time in the training room, and for myself to even play through that and not miss any games, I think that was a testament to our trainer Brad Floyd for getting me through that freshman and sophomore year and not really have that far of a step back in my game. I've always prided myself in trying to be tough and trying to be out there no matter what, but that was something that really took me to another gear to try to even get to practice and play through practice and play in a game. It was really hard to manage. But I just did what I could, and it was really tough, that's for sure.
Mike Kloss.
Jordan, I know there's no way of giving a specific answer to this question, but do you think about it much? Do you think about how much money you potentially could have lost from this NIL not being in place? Do you have any ideas or guesses what that would have been?
I mean, for sure, yeah. I mean, the work I've done on CPA these past probably about a year now that I've been working with Ramogi and, the mini player association. We started gathering with our Big Ten conference, and we're starting to knock off state bills from each respective school in the Big Ten conference right now, which says a lot about the kind of power that players have. But I do think about it. But at the end of the day, this is bigger than myself. I think future generations of athletes, I can't wait for them to finally profit off this really important topic and controversy, and it's something that the NCAA just has taken way too long to finally finish the job, and they just want to keep delaying, and it's going to take player action like we've done, and outside action like Ramogi has done with the NCPA to finally accomplish this goal. And we're right there. The Freedom Act, the name, image, and Freedom Act, I can't think of the exact name, was just released as well in the government as well. I think it was yesterday or the day before. So that was another big step forward. I was talking with Jay Billis on the phone a couple of days ago as well about that, and he was on the phone with the senators trying to work through that and get that, being ready to introduce. So, there's a lot of steps being taken behind closed doors, and a lot of it's from the player front.
So we have time for 3 more questions with Jordan. Go ahead, Rick Brown.
Yeah, Jordan, I don't think you're even 10 years old and Jeff Horner was a senior. So I don't know if you have any recollections of his game at all, but what would it mean to you to pass him in career assists?
It's surreal. I do remember watching Jeff Horner. I remember him pulling up from the MediaCom logo and, looking to my mom, and I was like, wow, this player is really good. And it's something kind of a player I kind of modeled my game after when I grew up. And, he's one of the greatest Hawkeyes to ever play here, to ever put on the jersey. And for, my name to even be thrown in with his is, breathtaking. And I can't even put into words, what it means to even have that happen. I've worked really hard in my life, but never thought I could ever get to this point of, being able to break a record at Iowa, because so many people doubted me once I got on campus that I wouldn't even be able to accomplish anything. So, that kind of provided a lot of fuel to my fire, and looking up to all these guys like Jeff Horner is something that really helped me get to this point.
Before Iowa offered, didn't he try to recruit you to North Dakota? Didn't he put out a few feelers at least?
Oh yeah, for sure. I talked to him a couple of times when he was at North Dakota, but at the end of the day, I wanted to come to Iowa and start a legacy here.
Chad Lysacombe?
Hey man, did you hear my question to Connor earlier by chance?
I have not, no.
Okay, so he set the bar really high here. When you've played more games than any Division I player, so obviously you've seen a lot of officiating crews. When you walk into a game, are there certain like refs that you see that it could be a tougher night? You have to play differently because of that. I guess how do you approach it depending on what referee crew is on your game?
Well, in my mind, I think it's ridiculous that refs are working back-to-back nights. I don't know if that's the exact same 3 guys that were officiating the night before, but to have refs work back-to-back nights, I think it's ridiculous and should not be happening. I think there's definitely some background bias that's going on with some refs with Coach McCaffery, and it's unfortunate. And I know Coach McCaffery literally said, "Are you kidding me?" And he gets teed up for that. And if that's what you're getting teed up for now, I don't want to see what basketball's going to be like in a couple of years if that's the case. And I don't know what's going on with that certain ref that decided to team up, but something needs to be done and something needs to be said because that was unacceptable. And I stand by Coach McCaffery for being by us players, and I know he would do the same for us.
Tom Kakert, go ahead.
Jordan, you were talking about your trainer Brad Floy and impact. Do you have an estimate of how many hours you've spent with him the last years? Because you've probably spent more than anybody, and how he's helping CJ now to probably spending countless hours with CJ trying to get him ready to go.
I've honestly probably spent more time with him than my own family these past 6 years, five years that I've been here. He's, grown to be, not only an athletic trainer who's one of the best in the country, but, one of my close friends. I'm happy to call him a friend because I know that, all the struggles that I've been through, all the dark, days that I've been through and trying to get through them, that he's been there right by my side and keeping me positive and kind of brighten the picture a little bit of, what's the positive to come out of every situation. And I can't thank him enough for everything that he's done for me. Going through two hip surgeries and all the mini injuries that I've been through, plantar fasciitis. I mean, just go right down the line of everything that I've been through, and he's been there right by my side. And it shows the kind of person that he is. The story about Luke Slavens and him saving his life, and everything that he has provided this Iowa program. It's unbelievable, and he deserves all the recognition as possible because he's as humble as they get. And I can't thank him enough for everything that he's done for me and all the teammates that have come before me, and that they're teammates as well with me as well.
All right. Thanks, Jordan. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate your time today. See you tomorrow night, hopefully. Go ahead, John Sears.
Yeah, Connor, these last couple losses you guys have had, I think a total of 6 points in 2 games. How do you kind of get out of that? What do you have to do to finish better in these games?
I think it's a lot of things. I think a little bit of it is just, get a bounce here and there, get a call, maybe some changes things. But, I think to a certain extent, it's better execution down the stretch, better player personnel, knowing like who does what, and then just finishing out possessions. I think that going into every single game that we've played, there's different things that stand out in every game. And I think there's things that, we obviously need to handle better, but I think there's a lot of things out of our control as well that, it would be nice if, just feels like a lot's going against us at times, but then at the same time, obviously there's a lot that's under our control as well that we need to be better with. So,
Tom Kakert.
Connor, CJ apparently practiced yesterday. How did he look to you? Did he look like the CJ Frederick that you're used to seeing out there? And how important is he to you guys in getting him back on the floor with you?
Yeah, no, I thought he looked good. He definitely, made shots. He drove to the basket, and he looked like himself to me. His win's probably not where it needs to be.
in terms of, I don't know if he's ready to play 35 minutes. Maybe he is. I honestly have no idea. But I thought he looked good, and I would say he's obviously extremely important. With him, we're 12-2, and he goes out and we lose a couple in a row. Obviously, we had the chances to win those as well. But I think that he makes a huge difference. He brings a dynamic score. He can score at all three levels. He's a good defender. Brings in another deadly 3-point shooter into the lineup. He's someone, he averages, I don't know what he averages, but he's able to go for 20 points a game, any night. He's another person the defense has to think about. It opens things up for Luka when you add him into the lineup, because it just creates more space. And like I said earlier, he's a really good defender. So that's another person you can put on, another team's guard. And then at the same time, when we're in our zone, he's one that normally plays like that top spot. And so we all will kind of go back to our other spots that we normally practice in and are used to. So I think it just makes a ton of difference for sure.
Robert Reed.
Yeah, Connor, for a guy who's had his fair share of assists to Luka Garza, to see him, he's creeping up on the all-time scoring record. To see him surpass a milestone like that, what's that moment going to be like for you as his teammate?
As a teammate and as a friend, I'll be extremely happy for him. That it's something that, he obviously has earned. He's phenomenal. There's no other, obviously everybody knows at this point, the things he does, the different ways he can score, these are all things that he works on, and he's perfected his craft, up to this point. And I think, for me, it's just, it's been fun to play with him. Obviously, he's one of my better friends on the team, and, seeing him be able to, reach this milestone is something that, I'm excited, and I'm happy for him, and I'm happy for, his family that they get to see it as well. I wish that there would, be a little bit more normalcy to the season, and have his entire family here to see it, that kind of thing. But, I think that either way, it's an extremely special moment, and, it's something that obviously we'll all remember for forever.
Pat Hardy.
Yeah, Connor, how would you describe right now the confidence level of this team? And do you worry about that at all, or do you guys have too much experience to let a lack of confidence be?
Sorry, I couldn't really repeat it one more time.
Do you worry at all about the confidence level of this team, or is there too much experience on the team for that to be a problem?
No, I don't think that it's, I think we have enough experience. I obviously think, when any team goes into a little lull, there's maybe some confidence issues, but I would just say, it's more just staying connected at all times. We know the type of team we can be. As I said earlier, getting CJ back really helps. So hopefully, he's able to go. Hopefully he's healthy. But I think that, with us playing, there's just a couple of things that need to be tweaked, and we've been right there in these last 3 games that we've played. And so I think that a couple of different things go our way. Maybe we win all 3, maybe we win 2, win 1, whatever. And that's just, I think it's just how the season goes. I don't think it's something that we're gonna hang our heads on, and we're just gonna attack every game as it comes. And we'll be ready for Rutgers on Wednesday as if nothing has previously happened.
Scott Dochterman.
Yeah, Connor, how difficult is it with classes not being in session and juggling that with basketball? Is it more difficult? Is it less difficult? Is it the same as it normally would be? Just kind of what, from your mindset, what's it like juggling basketball with online courses over the last almost year now?
I would say it's definitely more difficult to juggle classes with basketball all online, just because there's more things you have to keep up on. There's not that in-person reminder of assignments. There's more homework all online versus in person, because teachers don't feel like they've been able to cover everything, which they probably haven't. In a full online section, they're not able to answer questions really as well as they normally would be in person. And I think that, you know, going through this season, it's kind of been expected. And so, you know, I think that's something we've all just kind of had to get used to. And I think it's been more difficult, but at the same time, we've all been able to adjust.
Chad Leistacombe.
Hey, Connor, I know your dad can't talk about officiating as much, but you guys don't get fined. When you see a certain crew, you know, calling the game, do you have to kind of play differently? I guess, are there some referees, you know, that call the game differently than others? And how much of a challenge is that on a night-to-night basis, you know, as far as foul trouble, you know, trying to stay out of foul trouble, that kind of thing?
I mean, there's a lot of different ways I could go with that question.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll say definitely there's, at least for me, there's one guy in particular that we've had in a couple of these games where I feel like we haven't had some things go our way. And I know there's pretty much everybody else feels the same way. I don't want to say any names, but there's a lot of things that could go differently in every game that we've played. If, you know, as I've said earlier, if we get a call here and there, I mean, there were some just insane foul calls called going back to the Illinois game, ridiculous foul calls and non-foul calls. I mean, in Ohio State, I didn't think Ohio State was nearly as bad with the refs at all, for the record. But then, I mean, the Indiana game was pretty nuts in my opinion. I'm going to try to, as much as I want to take the bait, I'm going to try to hold off because I think that, you know, there is no excuse for the way that things went down. We put ourselves in a position to win. A lot of things could have still gone our way. But I think, you know, with maybe a different ref on a crew, that you probably see a different outcome. And I will say the technical foul was ridiculous. That is what I'll say to defend my dad. That was one of the more insane technicals I've ever seen. It was horrible. It was a horrible call. It was a charge. The kid pushed me down. I'll say that. It was a charge. So either way, you call a block, fine. Joe T stole the ball right after anyways. He wasn't going to score. So it was a terrible call. But then to turn around and call it technical when he didn't swear, he didn't run out on the court. All I heard him saying, he was saying, no way, like no way, because it was my second foul. So he was mad about that. And he didn't need to call anything. He called it late in the first place. And then it was a awful technical foul call. It was one of the quickest ones. And I think that's something that probably goes back a couple of games. And, you know, refs aren't supposed to do that. You know, they're supposed to have short-term memory. You know, if we can't comment on them, then they can't hold us accountable for things that happened in games past either. That's not fair. That doesn't make any sense. So I'll leave it at that.
Next question. Anyone have a follow? Do you have a follow-up there, Chad?
No, I just appreciate the answer. Thanks.
All right. Anyone else with questions?
I could have given you more, but I feel like that's good enough.
All right. With no more questions, thanks, Connor, for your.
Yeah, Keegan, you said a couple weeks ago that when you watched that Michigan State game in '93 with your dad, the first time you watched it, he got kind of emotional. Can you tell me a little more about that? What got to him, and how did he express it to you guys? How much it meant to him?
Yeah, no, just because like we watched it together for the first time. My brother's named after Chris Street, and that it kind of hits home for him. Just being there, having Chris there, watching it with us. I mean, that game was huge. Just the impact of the whole Iowa basketball organization as a whole, and the first time watching it, obviously it's emotional for him just because Chris was one of his best friends. He took him under his wing when my dad first got to Iowa. So that was just a big moment for him.
Do you remember how old you were when you first watched it?
I was in elementary school, so I was really, really young. But we watched on one of his VHS tapes.
Old school.
Yeah, very old.
Thanks.
Mark Emmert, go ahead.
Yeah, Keegan, now that it's been about 5 weeks since that first Rutgers game, I guess, what did that do for you as a player, the ability you had to perform in the clutch moments, and what can you draw on from that game to help your career going forward?
Yeah, no, that game was really just felt like an old school Big Ten game. There's a lot of lead changes back and forth. It was probably one of the first games where I got to experience that, just the adversity that you have in the Big Ten, playing on the road against I think they're ranked 14th, top 15 team, and getting that win. I just felt like it really boosted my confidence going into the rest of the games this year. And I feel like that game really helped our team believe that we can win a lot of games. We just got to get back on that track.
What are you proudest of in terms of what you did in that game?
Yeah, I was just proud of like how I did the little things. I got a rebound with about 16 seconds left. I made the 2 free throws after that, but I also had 3 blocks and 3 steals. So I just felt like my activity level was really high that game, and that helped us overall.
Other questions for Keegan?
Yeah, I'll keep going. So, how can your team draw on that game now? You've had some rough moments down the stretch. So, how can you, I guess, look back at that game? What can that do for you as a team?
Yeah, no, just looking back at that game, we beat them on the road, so they're gonna come in here hungry. We just gotta fight adversity when there's adversity. We know that we can win this game. But there's 2 ways that we can look at this. We can either, we've lost 4 out of the last 5. We can either put our heads down, mope about it, be sad for ourselves, have everyone feel sad for ourselves, or we can go out with a mindset that we're the team that we felt like we could be at the beginning of the year, and that we've shown. And that's something that we all believe in right now. I'm just ready to get back to work, get back into the win column this week.
Anything else for anyone? All right. Thank you, Keegan. Appreciate your time today.
Yep.